Hi guys, welcome to Jerky's Backyard Shenanigans. I'm your host Jerky, and in this channel I'll be hoping to cover a lot of my projects. I've got so many. For instance, I've got a 79 Bronco currently doing a little restoration on, and EFI conversion 5-speed swap. It's been 3/4 ton swapped. Eventually get to the body work, you know how that goes. Got a 4-inch lift on it right now. Quite a bit of work done to it already, but as you can see, a bunch more to go. It's just kind of the nature of the beast when you change everything about a vehicle. This channel, we're going to be covering not only vehicles, I've also have got some China bikes that I got from Venom Motorsports, not sponsored, so don't even ask. A couple 4-wheelers, pretty much anything with wheels and an engine or an electric motor. I love it, just the way it goes with me. Cannot seem to stick with one thing or another. Also got, I think, about 4 or 5 trucks right now. It's hard to say, hard to keep track of them all. Also got an OBS crew cab. Name's Priscilla. She's got 33 12.5 17s on her. Had to crank the torsion keys and do a little bit of a NorCal mod to it, just to make them not rub when you turn. It's a pretty good truck. She's a big block with 4L80 in it. All stock as far as that goes, aside from the exhaust. It's got a Cadillac interior conversion. It's not quite done. Still a couple little odds and ends, but as you can see, I got the majority of it. Cadillac back seat, front seats. They are power and heated. I still have to hook up the heated piece of it, but the power part is all hooked up. Doubled in with navigation. This wheel, I love it. It just makes this whole interior worth it. But this one's kind of one piece at a time build, you know. It's pretty close to how I want it, but not quite. Also have a dual exhaust and Chinese headlights and tail lights, but overall not bad. It's a good truck. Also got an 88 Suburban. This one is definitely on the back burner for right now. It's got a small block 350 NV 4500 5-speed manual swap. This has also been 3/4 ton swapped. It's got the 10 bolts up front with 410 gears, 6-inch lift. It's got the full float 14 bolt in the rear, also with 410s. This truck I drove in high school, and sucks seeing it where it is right now, but when we get around to reviving it, you guys will see. But as you can see, she's pretty rusty. So if you're a high school kid, wash your damn truck. This is what you got to look forward to, and just, it goes real fast on these old cars. Also got a brick nose for it. It's a 88 F, well, I call it the 250-ish, but it's originally a 150. 3/4 ton swapped, 4-inch lift, Duramax tail mirrors. Bed, just got done swapping that out. You guys will see that later, don't you worry. But it's got a Sterling 10 1/4 in the back, 38-gallon fuel tank. So instead of having 2 fuel tanks, it's only got the one. just for simplicity's sake. And then it's rolling on 35s with 17-inch methods. Really like this wheel and tire combination. And the suspension has been painted. It was better, but it's kind of chipping. Drive it down too many dirt roads, I reckon. But this is a Dana 44 twin traction beam. It's got the center chunk out of a 89 F250 to give it 410 gears. Knuckles are off of an 86 to give me 6 studs to mount 79 k20 backing plates and calipers, as well as the hubs and rotors. Custom grill, light bar hidden in there. Had this truck a few years, built it during COVID, and I'm kind of doing one piece at a time with it ever since. You'll see more of that one. We're gonna try to make the body perfect. Alright, so it's got a Dana 44 high pinion. It's pretty common on these mid to late 70s F-150s and Broncos. It's a coil sprung front end, obviously, but from the knuckles out is all 79 Chevy K20 to make it 8 lug for practically nothing. It's a lot easier for me to find the Chevy stuff than it is to find the Ford stuff, so it is a little blasphemous, but I don't mind one bit. So today we're going to be adapting the 79 Chevy K20 calipers to the OE style Ford brake lines, and in order to do that, what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to trim the ears on this block that bolts up to the caliper. We're also going to have to ream the hole out to accept the Chevy caliper bolt. As you can see, I'm doing this one-handed. It doesn't quite fit. It's not just because it's in the plastic. So I will show you guys how I do that, as well as all the bracketry that we're gonna have to take off the original lines, because those are no good, to make the front brakes work as one like they're supposed to, even though the parts never belonged on this vehicle, but that's never stopped me before. So I'll get you guys on a time lapse and show you how I do that. So as you guys can see, this is a square block and it doesn't fit so good in the round hole. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to mark where we got to cut. To be honest with you, I'm probably just going to do what I did on my F250-ish that also has the 79 K20 brakes. So I'm going to essentially cut this, or at least cut grooves in this to make this fit, and that way it's also secure and stable. And I'm not gonna cut the block because it's just a little too close to the actual brake line for me, and I do want to make it safe, you know what I mean? So grab the grinder real fast and we'll get to it. Got the death wheel here. Now I'm going to set this here and I'm going to eyeball it. Alright. So I'll show you kind of the thought process, but as you can see, snipped off a little bit on both of those ears, but it doesn't quite fit where it needs to. So what I'm gonna have to do is just lop around these corners out essentially, and that'll make it fit pretty damn close. Alright guys, so in order to bore this hole out to the size we need for the Chevy caliper bolt, I'm going to be using a 25/64 drill bit. As you can see on our copper crush washer, fits in there perfectly. Now the reason why we're going with that instead of like a 3/8 or something like that, so it has this small little shoulder, and that shoulder needs to sit flush inside of there to allow the crush washer enough space for that to actually crush down to the size. So I'm going to drill those out real fast, show you what it looks like when it's all mounted up to the caliper. Alright, so as you can see, now slides in there perfectly. It goes all the way flush, and it's still a good tight fit, so we shouldn't have to deal with any leaks. But as I was explaining, if we would have gone with like a 3/8, it'd be sitting right about there, and that doesn't give us enough room for the crush washer to actually crush. Now the reason why those crush washers are so important is because that's actually your seal, and if you double up on the crush washers, it adds an extra layer for that to actually leak brake fluid. We don't want that on this kind of system because, again, we want it to make it safe, even though it is kind of hacked together. But there's a right way and a wrong way. I'm sure there's a better way to do this. Probably get custom brake lines made, but we don't have that kind of budget. So we're making do with what we got and adapting and improvising to overcome. So I'm going to get this mounted up and I'll show you the end result. Alright, so as you can see, it's got a pretty good fitment on that. It sits right where the Chevy line would be. Got a decent crush on the crush washers. Now this is going to go this way. There will be another bracket that goes right here that this clip holds on to. We'll have to straighten out this line so that way it meets up with the junction block right here. And then from there through right here, we will need an extended brake line. I got that off of Jeff's Bronco Graveyard. I had some other parts I was ordering at the same time, so I just threw that in with the order. It works pretty good, but then we'll go ahead and knock out the other side. We'll steal all the brackets off that we need to, then hook up the extended brake line, and the front, as far as the lines, will be done. Of course, I will have to change out my master cylinder and brake booster because they are original to the vehicle, and since I'm doing all the brakes on this, including the rears with the 3/4 ton axle swap, I want as much new as possible, so that way I can bleed it all in one go and I'm not having to come back and re-bleed. But I also want newer parts that have rubber seals, because I don't want the old rubber seals causing problems later down in the future. There's nothing worse than a soft brake pedal, let me tell you. Alright, so now we got both sides modified. Brake lines are ran in. They have these brackets right here, and those hold them off of the radius arms. Now, a little note on the middle bracket that holds the extended brake line on. The extended brake line does not have a tab like the original one does. It has a hole like you would see on a rear axle where it bolts through the actual vent on the differential. So what I did was take a shouldered nut, drilled a hole through the little slot for the tab, and then just bolted it through. As you can see, that's not going anywhere. So now all we got to do is run this piece up through the frame and put this end on the proportioning valve, and then the front brake lines will be done. Now, there was quite a bit of modification on this, so just keep that in mind. It is an older vehicle, so specifications do get lost to time. So it's nothing too crazy, just a little bit of ingenuity. And just don't be scared of that. It'll work out in the end. Just got to trust the madness. Alrighty, so we got the extended brake line ran where the factory one would be. You can see where it bolts onto the proportioning valve. Now it comes with like a little sort of nutsert deal, and your clip to hold the line is going to go through that, and that's going to give this room to flex up and down ever so slightly. Threw me off too when I went to put that in there, because the other brake line is like this. It's got a hard line coming out of that nutsert, and that's because this was never designed for the articulation that we now have with the 4-inch lift. As you can see, there's a little better shot of that bracket with the bolt through it. Still have to tidy up the bends on that line, but it'll work out. And the passenger side line has these tabs on the axle that holds it all together to keep everything out. And there's a better view of the bracket that holds it off of the radius arms. But in a nutshell, that's pretty much how you want to run that. Now, I'm no expert. I do this kind of thing for a living, but it's also my hobby, so when it's your own stuff, you can definitely get creative. When it's a customer's, you definitely got to do it by the book. But that's pretty much how you want to do it. Now, you may notice that I have a bunch of wires and connectors that a 79 Bronco never had. Now, that's because with the EFI conversion, I went ahead and got a wiring harness out of an 87 Bronco. Now what that allows me to do is cuts down on a lot of headache for the fuel system. Now on the 87 you have a low pressure pump in the fuel tank, as well as a high pressure fuel pump on the frame rail. And that's what this connector will be going for. Now this is for the 87 ABS pump slash proportioning valve. We might revisit that and put one of those in later, but we're going to see how it works with the original 79 proportioning valve. Now I am running a 205 transfer case. It is the original transfer case for the vehicle, with a small block internal slave ZF5 5-speed manual transmission. This truck was originally an automatic, but I personally prefer the manual transmissions over the automatic, and it definitely helps picking up 2 extra gears. Now we are running a 351 Windsor on the 400 engine frame towers with long tube headers out of an 87 to a 96 Ford F-150 or a Bronco. Now, to my surprise, they did fit, but there is going to be a couple of modifications that I want to make just to make my life easier when I have to remove the starter, if I have a bad starter or not. Now the plan is, on this tube right here, I'm going to cut it. I'm going to put a V-band right there so that way it's easily removed, and then further up on the header around here we're going to do the same thing. And what that's going to do is allow this piece to be removable and hopefully buy us enough room to get that starter out without pulling the header, because it is a very tight fit and it is kind of a pain in the butt to get that. Now I am building a cross member for this because the original cross member would go right here, and there was interference issues with the actual transmission. Now if I went with like a M5OD or an M5R2 out of an F-150, it probably would have fit with some smaller modifications, but I don't personally prefer those transmissions. It just feels too much like a car transmission, and with this being an older truck, I want it to drive like a truck, not a car. Now there's a key modification that you have to make if you're going to put a 205 behind a ZF5 or a Mazda 5-speed. Now we had to notch the tail housing to make room for the shifter arm on the T-case, and it's ugly, I'm not gonna lie, but we can definitely clean that up later and make it more copacetic. But for right now, this is all just mocked up. I still have to go through the transfer case, rebuild that. I have to rebuild the transmission, and this engine is a mock-up engine, so if I do go with this one, it will need rebuilt. But I've got a couple different 351 Windsors, like the one I pulled out of my parts truck. We're gonna see if that one is any good. There was a lot of rust in the lower radiator hose, so that does add some concerns. But if that one is usable, I might just freshen it up as much as I can. But if that one's bad, then we might go with a reman. I do have a short block from Abco Motors that I bought years ago, but that one is bored 60 thousandths over, and I don't really want to just slap it together. That one, I've got bigger plans for it, like maybe a stroker build later on down the road. We'll just have to see what happens, you know. Now with the 87 wiring harness, a couple reasons why I went with that. Mostly because of the low pressure fuel pump fits inside the original 79 Bronco gas tank, and it is a 33-gallon tank, so that was pretty much just for ease of adaptability. And here you can see the sterling 10 1/4 and a little more of the suspension paint. Now I am running blocks for right now. Later on down the road we will go to an actual 4-inch lift leaf spring. But this is pretty much just to get it going, get some miles on it, and see how it goes. Now, for the e-brake cables, I was able to use ones off of a 88 F250 with the Sterling 10 1/4. And the way I ran them is pretty similar to how the original Bronco cables went. There is a little more slack in this one than there was in the original Bronco parking brake cables, but they loop up and then they come to this junction block. Now they did fit here, and I did have to adjust this down to make them work because it does have a little less throw on this section of the cable than the original Bronco cables did. But as you can see, that's where we're at right now. There's definitely a lot more work to happen. So if you like this kind of thing, this piques your interest, go ahead and give a like or subscribe, you know, and we'll see where this channel goes, and who knows, right? But I'm definitely going to keep plugging away at this truck. I've got deadline. Pretty much we're trying to get it done by March next year. I mean, I'm not going to deal with too much of the body work because that's a project in itself. And right now it's definitely feeling like we bit off more than we can chew. But stay tuned and let's keep it constructive. Let's build this, let's build each other up and build this channel up. All right.